Hey everybody, my name's Eric, and on this channel I make videos to help you learn English from anywhere in the world. Today it's actually sunny enough that I have some sunglasses on, which is quite nice. All of a sudden I smell a skunk. Not sure where that came from. Anyways, today I thought that we would chat a little bit about accent. This is a common subject that comes up in language learning, and it's something that I've had to deal with as well. So the first language that I've really spent any time trying to learn is Russian. And Russian is very, very different from English. It has a very different sound. I was very surprised when I started learning Russian because I thought it would sound a little harsher. And it actually sounds quite beautiful. It's very similar to other Romance languages like French or Spanish. But I wanted to make sure that when I started speaking, I developed a good accent. So I actually went about it in a way that I wouldn't recommend. But I'll tell you what I did because I think it might apply if there's any musicians watching or listening. So I grew up playing guitar, playing piano, and singing, and I developed quite a good ear. So when I hear things, I'm able to more easily mimic the sounds that I'm hearing and can reproduce those when I sing. One of my vocal coaches growing up when I used to take lessons to help me sing better. One of my vocal coaches used to tell me that I was really good at mimicking other people. And so when I started learning Russian, I wanted to apply that skill. So I would listen to sentences spoken from even just like Google Translate, but also YouTube videos and anything that I could find really. And I would get the transcript and I'd try to say those back and match the intonation, the pitch, the cadence, everything about the language, almost like I was learning a song. Now, while that seemed to work, because the very first conversation that I had with a native Russian speaker over the phone, they told me that I had a really good accent, like it was hardly any accent. They could hear on a little bit of an accent on some words, but most of the time it was pretty good. So that seemed to work for me. So if you're a musician, that might work. If you're not a musician, what I would encourage you to do is apply the next technique that I've learned a little bit more about since I started learning languages, and that's to just listen more. If you want to have a better accent when you speak, it works a lot better to just have a better understanding of how the language sounds in your head. And the only way to do that is to just spend a ridiculous amount of time listening. Your brain is going to have a much easier time producing sounds that sound more closely aligned with a native accent when it knows what a native accent sounds like. So that's one of the reasons that I make these videos on YouTube, just so that you guys have more audio with subtitles. Don't forget to turn on the subtitles if you need them, so that you have more listening practice to what it actually sounds like when a native English speaker speaks English. Because a pet peeve, what is a pet peeve? A pet peeve is something that often comes up repeatedly that bothers us. So a pet peeve of mine, and I think a pet peeve of a lot of North Americans, is when English is spoke with such a thick accent that we can't understand it. This often happens when we phone, it always seems to happen when we phone for support for a product or a technology that we're using. For some reason, you often get somebody on the phone who's got a really thick accent, and especially on the telephone, it is really difficult to understand what somebody is saying if they have a thick accent. So I think it's critical that your accent is as close as it can be to a native speaker, because that's just going to help you be more easily understood by a native speaker. That being said, there are plenty of examples of people that speak English really well and they have an accent. I might even put some clips in the video right now of just some people who have learned English and still have a foreign accent.
I don't know if you know, when I moved to LA 2 years ago, I didn't speak English at all. So forgive me if I make mistakes.
What gave you the sort of confidence to move to LA, start an acting career without being able to speak English?
I adventure and challenge, I guess.
I quite enjoy listening to different accents as long as it's still easy for me to understand. I quite enjoy it because it's just something different to listen to. One stereotype that we have in Canada is we tend to think that a British or a UK accent sounds a little bit smarter for some reason. And we also seem to find like French, Spanish, and Italian accents very sexy and exotic. So yeah, you can have an accent. That's not. I'm not saying, you know, you should strive for a perfect accent, because at the end of the day, you're never going to get a perfect accent as a language learner. But you definitely can get closer than I think other people, that I think some people manage to get to. And the real trick, I think, is really just listening. I think a large amount of the accents that I hear that are really strong and really thick and really difficult to understand are Indian accents, so like people that are actually from India and the Middle East, as well as Asian accents, so thick Chinese or Japanese or Korean accents. Those are very difficult for I'd say native North American English speakers to understand. So if you're from anywhere in those regions, that might be something worth focusing on, is just spending more time listening to videos like this. I don't care if you watch exclusively my videos or somebody else's videos, but definitely get more native sounding English into your brain, because it's going to help you sound better when you go to speak. One of the reasons that might come up for people from India, people from China, those types of places, is they have English in their school system, but the people who are speaking English around them also have a thick accent because their native language isn't English. It's Mandarin Chinese or Hindi in India or something like that. And so when they speak English, they have a thick accent. When the students hear it, they have a thick accent. And it kind of just breeds more speakers that have a thick accent. And so if that's you and you care about developing your communication skills possibly better than the rest of your peers, the easiest way to improve faster than anyone else is to just spend more time listening to native English speakers speak English. And so at this point, the wind outside became a little bit too much of a challenge for my microphone, so sorry about that. Really just want to underscore that point, that if you want to really improve your accent as well as your listening skills in English, to just spend more time listening to native speakers speak English. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. Don't forget to leave a like down below and subscribe, as well as ask any questions that you have as well. Feel free to ask any of those questions down there in the comments. Check out this video over here, and I will see you in the next video.